Welcome, welcome, welcome to another episode of Glorious Life on Wheels. This truly is glorious, isn't it? I am going to share with you today some of the ways that I made the design decisions that I did on my van for the layout. And I'm hopeful that it will help you and those of you who are doing your own builds or having someone do the build for you. There were five things that I really considered and were the guidelines that I used every step of the way. One was making sure that I knew what the purpose of the goals were for my build. What were the goals that I wanted to accomplish in the build? Number two was making sure that form followed function, and I'll explain it to you. Number three is that it's really critical in a space that small that everything that is possible have multiple purposes. Number four, you need to understand that everything that you decide, there are a number of options that you could choose, but every choice is going to have a sacrifice, and your purpose of your build will determine what it is you're willing and not willing to sacrifice. And number five, probably the most critical decision if you're not doing the build yourself, is picking the right builder. Someone who you can communicate well with, who you're in sync with, who understands your ideas and your vision, and who will sometimes even challenge you if you're going to make a decision that they know is going to make you unhappy in the end. So come on, let's go on and check this out and see how you can make your van of your dreams. As I said, there are basically 5 different things that I went over. And I'm just going to sit down today and have a little chat with you and me and explain to you the process of how I went through the build. Well, I didn't do the build, Mark did, but how I did the design, how I came up with the ideas, and how we worked together collaboratively to implement them. I'm going to have my notes here so I don't forget anything important. Just keep in mind, I'm not an expert. This is the first time that I have designed something like this. I've worked with, building out things in a home, but I've never worked in a space this small and in a van. So these are the things that worked for me, and I think if you want to do a build, I think these are some pointers that might just be helpful for you too. Number one, I stated was to identify your primary usage goals. What I mean by that is, do you want an adventure van? Do you want something that you're going to be going out in the back country? Do you want something that you're going to be away from civilization? If that's the case, then you're going to need very different things from someone who's going to be at campgrounds most of the time. You're going to need a large battery bank. For me, I love being outdoors. I love activities. I love being out in nature. So I knew that I wanted to be off-grid a good percentage of the time. So I knew that I needed a large battery bank. As far as another primary goal, I knew I was going to do a cooking show. So if you're going to do a cooking show, I needed counter space. So I needed a wide area that I could cook on. I needed to have a pantry that I could pull out that would be easily accessible to me. I needed cabinets overhead that I could pull down things to cook from. I needed a sink. So all of these primary goals went into my decision. Also, I knew I was going to be traveling with a teenager. Not just a teenager, but a special needs teenager who happens to be on the autism spectrum. So she often needs time alone for herself. She needs her alone time. So I needed separate living spaces. I needed an area where I could be and that I wouldn't get in her hair and bug her. She needed her own private space. So that mandated that I have 2 living areas. I also knew for me, I'm just not comfortable driving and not being able to see out the back. So I needed an open space, but I also liked the openness because it's such a small, confined space that I wanted to have it open. So that meant I didn't want ceiling to floor bathroom or cabinets like some RVs have. I wanted it all open. I wanted to have the visual aesthetic of just being able to look from the front to the back. So these were my primary usage goals. So everything that I did encompassed and was impacted by those goals. The second thing that I talked to you about was that form needs to follow function. And someone said this in one of the videos that I watched, and it really impressed me how he explained it. If you're going to do something, you need to have it set up so that it functions the way you're going to use it. In other words, my daughter and I, we do a lot of beach activities because she's happiest sometimes in the water. So we go to beaches, and quite frankly, I am too. So we go to a lot of beaches, we go to lakes, we go to rivers, we even go to creeks. And at many of these places, there's sand, there's dirt. Well, I knew I didn't want, at least not initially, I didn't want a 40 or 50 gallon water tank for a number of reasons, weight, a whole variety of reasons. I might later add one, but right now I didn't want one. So I needed a water source that could be both external and internal. So that dictated really where my faucet was going to be. I needed a faucet that was near an opening. And since my windows have screens, I didn't want to be popping out the screen in and out to shove the faucet through, so I had to have it near a door. And I thought about having it in the back with a kitchen in the back, but then that would have pretty much eliminated having two living spaces. So that meant that I had to have a counter that was when you came into the van, and you had a faucet there, and then I had an internal and external faucet. So I can turn the faucet around, I could spray it, spray our feet off, spray the dog off, and then turn it back around and use it internally also. So the form fit the function. Also in terms of the shower, I knew that I wanted to have, again, open spaces. So I needed to have a shower that would not obstruct my view when I was driving. So the form fit the function of having open spaces. That meant I had to have a shower that either could drop down or pull up. So I looked at both of those. I looked at showers that were retractable, that you could pull up the side walls and you could have something, or that you could pull it down with a shower curtain. And it was much more economical and feasible to have a drop down shower. So that's what determined my shower. I also wanted a shower that could double as a toilet area. And the doors on this, by having the shower doors open outward, what that also provided was when people walked by, if I was in a city area, even in a parking lot, I can use the bathroom here with the doors open, and people, if they walk by and really press in, they can see my head and from my chest up, but they can't see anything else. So they don't even know I'm using the bathroom. So that was part of what I mean when I say that form needs to follow function. How do you want it to function? What I did, some of the things that I did, some of them were a little zany, but some of the things that I did, I watched hundreds, I mean literally hundreds of videos on YouTube. And I watched how people did things, how they designed. And then I adapted that to my and my daughter's use. I also went to RV dealerships and I walked through all the vans. My daughter and I went to this one particular dealership so many times that whenever we would come out and the salespeople would come out, when they'd see it was us, they would just say hi, and they'd turn around and go back in. and they'd let us just wander because that they knew that's what we were doing. So we wandered in and out. We would sit down. We would pretend we were living in there. I would pretend I was cooking. I would reach up. I would see the way they had that built. Did that work for me? The location where they had it, did that work for me? I saw that some of the sinks were really tiny, and I pretended that I was using it, and I realized this is not going to work for me. So therefore, I have a very deep sink. I saw that some of the counter spaces that just had maybe 12 inches, that wasn't going to work with me having a cooking show. So that's why I have a long counter. That's why I have a refrigerator that's underneath the counter. One of the comments was, why is the refrigerator underneath? Don't you get tired of bending over? Well, no, I don't, because first of all, it's not that big a deal, but more importantly, that size refrigerator is what I needed for my cooking show. And if I'd had that refrigerator on top, I would have had practically no counter space in front of me. And even though I have counter space behind me, I didn't want to always be turning around. I wanted to have it function so pretty much everything I needed was in front of me. So that's why I have the pantry right down there, actually on my right side next to where I pull out. The sink is right next to me. The counter space, the cabinet for my things that I need is right above me. Everything that I need is right in the proximity where I'm going to use it. I didn't want to have a cabinet with kitchen goods in the back of the van and have to walk back and front. So how it's going to function, that's how I built it. Where I'm going to use things, that's where I put them. So even having the shower that drops down, having my shower items over the shower, that's what I needed. And actually, one of the comments was just brilliant. I can't remember who said it, but when I finish my design, I'm going to give him credit. He suggested, because when I did my tour, I didn't want to open the counter because I didn't want everything to fall out. He suggested putting a net over the bottom of the shelf so when I open it, everything is in the net and stays there. That's brilliant. And if any of you have any other suggestions like that are brilliant like that, please send them in and comment. But that's what I mean when I say form follows function. I also, now I'm a little embarrassed to say this, but I'm still going to say it. I would flag people down. If I saw vans that just looked really interesting, even from the outside, as I was driving and I would pull up alongside of them and I would like point to them to pull over. And believe it or not, all of the people that I did that to, they pulled over. And every single one of them answered my questions and let me even look in their van. And, you know, depending on who it was, I didn't necessarily get inside the van, but they all let me look in their vans and they talked to me. Because I tell you, this RV van community is the most generous and helpful community I've ever encountered. And I'm just grateful and pleased to be a part of it. But these are the things that I did that helped me decide how I was going to do my layout. The third thing I said was that every component should have multiple uses. And I think I've already gone over that to some degree, but like the swivel seat in front, that's part of my living room, but it's also a passenger seat. The bathroom, obviously the counter is counter space, but it also opens up to be a shower and my toilet area. The back area here where I'm sitting, this table is a dinette and an office, but it also pushes down to be part of the bed. So everything, oh, and the bed in front, my daughter's bed, it's storage, it's a footstool, and it's also a bed. So having as many things as possible have multiple functions. The faucet being for inside use for cooking and also outside use for a shower. The sink being deep enough that if I want to, I can store things in it and even wash my hair or my daughter's hair in the sink. It's that deep. Everything having multiple purposes is really critical. When you have a space this small, having things that only have one use is really a luxury that I think you can't afford. The fourth thing is that every component that you have and every decision that you make, there's multiple options. But almost every decision that you make is going to have some element of sacrifice. And let me explain. I wanted a lot of circulation because I was going to be cooking inside. So that meant I had a fan in the back, I have a fan in the front. But what that did is it took up extra real estate on the roof, so I couldn't have as many solar panels as I might have otherwise had. So I do have one large solar panel, but what I did to compensate for that is I have shore power. I also have a hookup to my alternator, so when I drive, it charges my battery. But again, there was the sacrifice of the roof and the space on the roof. But having already established what my primary goals would be and functions, I knew that having the extra power could be accommodated in other ways, and having the ventilation was more important than the extra panel. So that was a sacrifice I made. Some people might think having the refrigerator lower so I have to bend over. To some people that's a sacrifice, but it gave me extra counter space. So there are sacrifices that you'll make, but they're easy decisions when you know what your primary purpose is, your primary usage goal is, and you know how you want your van to function. And the last thing that I want to talk to you about, just very briefly, is choosing your builder. That's probably, if you're not going to do your build yourself, that is probably the most important decision that you will make. And having someone who can hear your vision, understand it sometimes even if you can't articulate it completely, and then put it into play. Also having someone who will challenge you sometimes, because on this refrigerator, as soon as I saw this refrigerator, I knew it was a refrigerator I wanted. But it was twice the amount of what we had budgeted for. It was more than twice the amount of what we had budgeted for a refrigerator. So I found another one that was a taller one, but still had the freezer space that I wanted, but it was only, I think, maybe $800. And it was, I think, a unique, and they carried it at Home Depot. And Mark, bless his soul, he said to me, you know, if you choose that refrigerator, every time you use it, you're going to be sorry. You're going to wish you had gotten the isotherm. And I thought about what he said, and I thought about other decisions that I'd made to try and save money or scrimp, and that every time I used something, I thought, oh, I wish I had gotten this, or I wish I had done that. And I knew that he was right. So having someone who will challenge you, also having someone who has the foresight that Mark had. One of the things that he did, I wanted a bench that went across the back because I thought, okay, it'll be extra storage. And he built that bench for me, but he called me and he told me, he said, you know, I built the bench, but I'm not going to install it until you get here. And he also said, I'm not going to install the table till you get here. And why he did that was because putting that bench across, it came in enough that it cut off my seating area. And even though I told him I wanted extra storage, I also told him I wanted to be able to seat 4 back here. So he said, I want you to look and see and decide which is more important to you. And so he knew that I had 2 objectives, and he let me make the choice. So I sacrificed the extra storage, which really turned out not to be a sacrifice because I have 8 overhead cabinets. So it wasn't a sacrifice. And then also, I had initially thought, well, let's just put it in the middle, and but I hadn't been accustomed to dealing with a hydraulic table. I was more familiar with the Lagoon table, which can turn around and you have all kinds of turns. But it's more of a problem when you take it down trying to make up your bed. So he said, well, let's just wait on the location and you decide. Well, when I came, we looked at it and we actually tried it with me getting in here, which is so easy because it turns and I just slide right in. Whereas if I'd had it in the middle, it would have been really hard for me to get in, or I'd have had to be climbing over. So he made decisions to wait on things until I got there. And having someone who has that intuitive knowledge to know what to do, it's not just someone who has skills, it's someone who has an artist's eye, intuitive ability, who can work with you, who knows your vision, who will challenge you. And he even challenged me to up and increase and improve the things that I wanted, and came up with things like the vent in the back for the refrigerator to accommodate the refrigerator that I wanted. So all in all, know your primary usage goals, have form, follow function, have each component have more than one usage. Know that every decision has several options, and each option is going to have, you're going to sacrifice something. And finally, just talk to your builder before you hire them. See, do you have a connection? Do you have a vibe going that you know this is someone that you can work with and who will do all the custom touches that you want and won't just have a couple of floor plans and you have to fit what you want into what they build instead of them building and fitting it to your needs. Those are the decisions that went into my build and my design and layout. And I hope that's helpful to each and every one of you. And happy building, and I wish you the best. I am so excited to tell you that we have surpassed 2,500. I just didn't even imagine last week when I said I was going to do a giveaway at 2,500 that we would be there within a week, but we are. Go figure. So what I have is 2 items. First one is a collapsible colander. I have one of these and I really, really love it. It's a colander that the handles or the edges expand so that it'll fit most sinks. It also pops open and then collapses so you can use it on a table, in the sink, anywhere, camping, outside, in a house. So I'm going to be giving 5 of these away, and these are the 5 items that I'm going to give to 5 of my lucky first 20 subscribers. The second thing that I'm going to give away is not this knife, but a knife like it, this Mercer brand. I love this knife. It's the best chopping knife. I used to work part-time for someone after I retired, and she was a chef, and she had a knife like this, and I just loved it. And I used it one day, and I thought, I told her, this is a magic knife. Well, what do you know? Next thing I knew, she bought me one. How kind was that? Anyhow, my younger brother came to visit, and he used this knife, and he went right back to North Carolina and ordered one for himself. So I just love this knife. So this is going to be the giveaway that I'm going to give for my general giveaway, and everyone is eligible who's a subscriber to get this knife. The only thing is, if you already win one of these colanders, you can't also win the knife. Only one gift per winner. How this is going to work, you know, when I announced this giveaway, I didn't really think, how am I going to do this? And my cameraman, Enoch, we were talking, he said, well, you could put all 27 names in a basket and pull them out. And I was like, I'm not writing down 2,700 names. That'll take me the rest of the month. So another friend of mine came up with a great idea. And this is the idea. On the giveaway, for the general giveaway, anyone who's a subscriber, what I'm going to have you do is the first 25 people who comment on my comment for this video and tell me the title of my first video, you will go into the drawing. So everyone's eligible, but you've got to get there and be one of the first 25. I will take those 25 names and I will pull, and one of you will get this knife. Well, not this knife, but a knife like this. On my first 20 subscribers, what I'm going to do is I'm going to write the names of my first 20 subscribers. I will handwrite those out. I can write 20 names. I'm going to put those in a basket or a bowl, and I will pull those 5 out, and each of you will get one of these. I will do that on my next video. So comment on this. Let me know the name if you're interested in entering this. Be one of the first 25, and it's going to be one of the first, did I say 25? Yeah, first 25 that are on my scroll or screen. But so I'll go by what's on my screen, the first 25 that have the title, and have it correctly, of my first video. So thank you so much for watching. Subscribe, comment, let me know how you like or don't like what's happening on this channel, any suggestions you have. There were some questions, and I think I answered them for the most part. The toilet, as I said, is in the shower. The refrigerator is an Isotherm Cruise 200. That's one of the most asked questions. And I think that's it, friends and fellow Globies. So I will see you next Thursday, same time. Thank you so much for getting me almost to 3,000 subscribers. Can you believe that? And what I am going to do when I get to, I think, 7,500 subscribers, I'm going to have another giveaway. I don't know what it's going to be yet, but I was thinking maybe a meetup, but I don't know. Depending on what's happening with everything going, I'm sorry, I was distracted looking at this fisherman going by us, but depending on what's happening, I might do a giveaway that would be a meetup, but I might make that for 10,000. I don't know. I'm thinking of doing it that would be in a tri-state area of wherever I am at the time. So the 3 states surrounding, I would come to a subscriber and I would do a cooking show with that subscriber. But again, it depends on what's going on with the situation that we have here with the all the shutdowns and everything. But I'm thinking of some things, so if you have some ideas, please send them in, comment, and thank you again. May your journey be filled with joy and blessings. Till next Thursday, thank you. See you then. Bye.